What's up, everybody? My name is Tony Hope, and you're listening to the Hear Me Roar podcast, a sports show where I run my mouth about all things sports. And today, Noble Lewis and I are back with another iteration of Hear Me Roar. And if you're not familiar with my name, you will be. You better get used to it because I am the future of sports media. It's Tuesday morning. This episode will be going out shortly in the afternoon. We had a big sports weekend. We had the main event of UFC 297, Sean Strickland versus Dricus Du Plessis, where Dricus Du Plessis got the win and became the new UFC middleweight champion in a very close fight. We had the Ravens defeat the Texans. The 49ers hang on and are going to the NFC Conference Championship game after a very scary competitive game. The Lions beat the Buccaneers, and the Bills, Lord have mercy, the Bills just can't get it done again against the Kansas City Chiefs, this time in their own territory, yet the result is the same. We're going to get all into it. Before we get started, of course, like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, share it, Spotify, rate it, share it, Apple, rate it, share it. That's all. We can't state that enough. We're going to continue to improve the quality of the show, but it won't matter unless y'all do y'all's parts as well and share it to people that you think would like it. Even if you don't listen to the podcast, even if you know someone who won't listen to sports, I don't care. Still send it to them so they can subscribe or they can comment or like it. It goes a long way, I promise you. So let's hop right into it. You ain't wasting no time. I got some stuff to say. We're gonna start off with the UFC. Sean Strickland versus Dricus Du Plessis. Firstly, the UFC 297 wasn't a very strong card, top to bottom. It wasn't the strongest of cards. You could tell that the UFC were saving a lot of their bigger fights for UFC 299, UFC 300, which is fair. You know what I'm saying? We kicked off the year with a very entertaining and competitive main event, and that's sometimes all you can ask for. And in said main event, it was a closely contested battle. It was the definition of a fight. There was no getting around it. This was not the most technical of fights. And actually, I won't say it was the most technical. It was the most pretty of fights, right? There was times where they were both throwing very looping punches, and some will consider it sloppy. But at the end of the day, in a fight, you got to do what gets it done. That's my motto for this year: is get it done. And that's what was the pinnacle, and that fight was the pinnacle of that motto. You just got to get the job done sometimes. Sean Strickland or Dricus Du Plessis won DDP. It was a close fight, split decision. All the fights or the rounds were scored the same, except for round 3. Yeah, except for round 3. Two judges scored round 3 in favor of DDP. One scored in favor of Sean Strickland, which ends up giving us a split decision. I enjoyed that fight. So before I get into my breakdown, what did you feel about it? Was it the right decision, and whatnot?
Well, first off, I had DDP going into it, so shout out me. But on a real note, I so on a real note, it was entertaining. It was very entertaining. It pretty much, in my eyes, came down to the wire. There was rounds from 3 to 5. Every round was it was so close that I couldn't even. I had no idea which way to score most of those rounds, just because it was so nasty and it was so close that it was just physical and it was ugly, and both sides took an astronomical amount of damage, and it was just really ugly, gritty fight. And part of it going into it, I said that if it went that way, that it would lean in Strickland's favor, but it ended up leaning in DDP's favor. At the start of the fight, Strickland came out really strong with his jabs, and I think he set the tone early with that. But once DDP was able to start to manage the distance better, and was able to land some of those hooks. They look kind of wild. He has such an exhausting looking fighting style. When you watch him fight, it looks like almost the opposite of like a boxer where everything looks tight. He looks like everything, it looks almost like total wasted movement. But his cardio kept up, which was a question that I had going into it. So yeah, I think it was just it was ugly. It was ugly, but like you said, it got the job done. Very close fight, very close fight. It really could have went either way. Some people say Strickland got robbed. I don't think it was a robbery. I think it was just so close that either side could have come out, and I wouldn't have been mad with the decision.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing I was going to touch on. People need to understand the definition of a robbery. That wasn't a robbery. A close fight is not a robbery. And that's something that I had to understand too. Like when I suffered my first loss, it was a very close fight. I thought I won. A lot of other people thought I won as well, but the judges didn't. And that's all that's whose power the fight is in the hands of. So if you don't want to have to even deal with a close fight, you don't need to go to a decision. They're plain and simple. That is the risk of decision, or lasting all 5 rounds or lasting all 3 rounds. It's just now it's in the judge's hands. So as a fighter, that's why you always want to finish, especially in MMA. If you can take it to the ground, you want to try to go for the finish on the ground. Don't go on the ground trying to just control. If you're a striker and you know that you have to pick up the gas tank because it's a close fight, you got to lay everything out. That's kind of what was the advice for Strickland in the 4th, or really after the 2nd round. Sean Strickland's corner was like, all right, pick it up, pick up the pace. Mm-hmm. Just go ahead and start overwhelming this guy. And that's, that's the logical thing to do. You got to pick up the fight. You don't want to take it to a decision. I personally had it 2-2 going into the 5th round. And I was under the impression that whoever wins the 5th round wins the fight. I thought Strickland won the 5th round. So I had the judges giving it to Strickland. But DDP had it was a top level performance by both guys. Sean Strickland's win against Izzy wasn't a fluke. He proved that he can perform on the big stage. DDP completely rose out of, I'm not going to say out of nowhere, but the way he kind of ascended and the questions surrounding his game, he evaporated all of them with this win. First South African champ. This was only the 2nd decision win in DDP's career. He always gets finishes. This was 6 takedowns were landed on Sean Strickland. And it was the most ever landed on him in a fight. So Dana White, he had it scored 2-2 going into the 5th round, and he gave it to Strickland as well. So it was just a close fight. From the fans to the head honcho himself, to analysts, to media outlets who scored the contest themselves. Like you said, Sean Strickland started off the fight strong, throwing the jab out, just such a very popping and accurate jab. It landed early and often. He easily got the 1st round. In the 2nd, that's when you can start throwing him. You can start being like, well, this DDP did this, yet Sean Strickland did this. DDP did a very good job with his adjustments from round 2 and onward. It really allowed him to chip away at Strickland from the amount of pressure he was putting on to the amount of, or to starting to throw that, what was it? It was a left high kick, and it was just barely missing. It was Sean Strickland was kind of bucking it off and blocking it just a little bit. It was very, very, very close to landing. So was the overhand, right overhand that DDP was throwing at. That started to turn up often as the fight ran on. The takedowns, of course, they add up. You can't look at just striking in the vacuum, nor can you look at just takedowns. But when they all add up cumulatively, then that's when you can start looking at it. Like if you look at some of the stats, Sean Strickland had 173 significant strikes compared to DDP's 137.
Which is insane.
So
both
right.
of those
So
numbers are crazy.
but DDP had 6 takedowns landed. 6 out of 11 takedowns landed. So if you want to look at damage, I mean, DDP's face was a mess. Like he looked like a beat up, like just a rotten pumpkin essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean Strickland had a huge cut over his left eye due
Yeah,
to I believe an elbow.
Yeah, elbow in the fourth.
So it was damage wise. They both look a bloody mess, and of course damage. You have to look at it round by round. Strickland had DDP looking like that by the end of the second. One thing I noticed though was, and I'm sure that if he could redo the fight, he would, because Strickland thought he won as well. If he could redo the fight, he would probably throw his right hand a little more.
Yeah, especially early on. He didn't get to it until late.
He couldn't. He didn't have a choice but to keep it up with the way that DDP was throwing some of those head kicks. And of course, DDP did the same thing with his switch stance, constantly moving forward, switching stances, not giving Sean Strickland a chance to continue going forward. DDP did a great job at keeping Strickland on the back foot. And it was overall a great fight, entertaining. Do not equate close fights with robberies. If you think Strickland won, that's cool. But the fact of the matter is that it was a close fight. It could have gone either way. You can't be upset with DDP winning because he earned that win. It's not like he kind of lazed the bout and lucked up and the judges got it wrong. No, he was performing. He fought all 5 rounds hard. He showed his offense, both takedowns and striking. He completely threw off the flow of the average Sean Strickland fight. We said that going into it. It wasn't going to, it might not be as super forward pace and keep on going aggressive like Sean Strickland has been in the last 5 fights. And it proved to be true Saturday night.
Yeah, he threw him off his pace from that second round going forward. The first round, like I said, the first round was pretty strongly in Strickland's. Honestly, the takedown, I wouldn't say it. I wouldn't say it's so exaggerated that it would have been 10-8, but the takedown definitely helped. But the one thing about first off, Sean Strickland's takedown defense is great. Even though he got taken down a lot of times, he got up very quick on all of those takedowns, and that's what that's one thing that a lot of people had questions is like, how do you grade a takedown when it doesn't lead to anything? Me personally, I still give credit because getting the takedown, firstly, especially on someone like Sean Strickland, who's not who has great takedown defense, getting the takedown in general is a feat of itself. And then, but like I said, I will give Strickland a lot of credit because the takedowns didn't lead to anything. I don't have the control numbers in front of me. Do you see them in front of you?
The control time?
Yeah.
No, I did not. No, I didn't have it up on me. But it wasn't a lot. Like you said, Sean Strickland was just able to, he would get taken down. He would get a little ground and pound by DDP going, and then he'll stand right back up. It was it was one of those things where it was just the volume of takedowns. Some those at the end of the day, if it's a close round, a takedown is enough to sway the judge's favor. You know, it's just one of
Yes,
those
2
things
minutes 8 seconds of control time for DDP.
of a 25-minute fight. So it was pretty much rendered. The control time was completely thrown out the picture, and now it's like, okay, well, now it's 6 takedowns to none. Plus, he's landing these strikes. Plus, DDP or plus Sean Strickland's face looks a goddamn mess, and it looked like that from the 3rd or the 4th round going forward. So optics have something to do with it as well. Of course, what is scored is weighed differently. Every round or every judge gave the 5th round to Strickland, which I believe was the right call. The only thing that I had it different, was the 2nd round to Strickland as well. The 2nd round, I believe, should have gone to Strickland just from the jab just continued to land and the adjustments made by DDP just did not come into effect fully into the 3rd round. I believe rounds 3 and 4, 100% DDP, shouldn't be a question at all. And it was a very close fight. It was entertaining. Now we're on to what's next the UFC is on to what's next at middleweight. You got the last 15 months of just pure insanity. Alex Pereira knocks out the second coming of Anderson Silva. Izzy gets his get back, knocks out Poatan, sends him up to light heavyweight. Then not even one defense later, the absolute next fight for Izzy, he gets knocked out by Sean Strickland. And now Sean Strickland lost to DDP. So it's now we're like, okay, what do we go from now? You got Alex Pereira on Instagram saying maybe one last rodeo at middleweight. So perhaps he has obligations at light heavyweight. You got Magomed Ankalaev up there. You got what's that man's name? Former champ Hill.
Jamal Hill.
Yes. He got him at coming back from his injury. Former champ, never lost his belt. So he has obligations up there at middleweight. So, and then we also have Khamzat Chimaev, who's going to want a title shot at middleweight. He went up a weight class and fought Kamaru Usman on short notice. So I don't think that he's going to get it next. Not at all. Especially with Israel Adesanya lurking in the shadows, just waiting. He's talking about he was going to take however many years off after that Strickland fight. That's a goddamn lie. I think that he was just waiting for this middleweight picture to kind of reveal itself. He's just waiting for his opening. He has kind of that cachet. He has the resume to call these type of shots. And if he wants to come back now and challenge DDP, DDP's open for it. In his post-fight interview,
DDP called him out. He wants it.
Got unfinished business. Let's go ahead and get this settled. And I agree fully. Like look at the build up the first time. Then Izzy calling him a fake African, and DDP saying that he does it for his country and he does it for the continent of Africa. Kind of challenging Israel's stake as being, Israel Adesanya is Nigerian, yet he fights out of New Zealand. So he kind of challenges the notion that Israel Adesanya is a true African champ. So they don't like each other. And I believe this is the perfect time for the UFC to goad Israel Adesanya into coming back so they can make some money off this. Because look, that fight, that build-up, that would be entertaining.
Yeah, Dana said, I saw something. Dana said that they might even consider having it in South Africa.
Which would be so huge that would easily sell out a stadium. Not even an arena. That needs to be in a stadium. Easily.
Yeah, so I think I would love for Izzy to come back against everybody. It seems like everybody wants a piece of Izzy in middleweight. He kind of set the standard for himself where to be a true champion, he had his 5 title defenses. Strickland couldn't even get one. And so it seems like he kind of set the precedence that, he's just someone that you want to beat in that division. If you want to, look fully legitimate, that's why, Alex called him out again, even though he moved to light heavyweight. Alex called him out again. He wants to fight him again, but yeah, I know he's a real hater. He just doesn't like him. DDP calls him out. I think it's just he's kind of just reached that status in middleweight where you want to beat him to show your legitimacy, especially if it's a title defense.
Honestly, I'm gonna have to disagree with that. I think that it's more so Izzy has a way of, I don't want to say rubbing people the wrong way, but his personality can be unlikable for just certain people.
I see that.
Look, Khamzat Chimaev ain't trying to fight Izzy. He wants to fight the champ. That's who he wants to fight. He wants to fight whoever has a belt. He wants to get a belt around his waist. And I fully understand that with his dominance as champion, or not dominance as champion, just dominance as a fighter and the way he fights, he would give DDP issues. I think, and then of course, Alex Pereira wants to just continue to be a thorn in the side of it. Like he wants to be 100% like not just a chapter of Izzy's lore. He wants to be like an entire half of the book. So he wants to continue to just rain havoc on his life. Sean Strickland, I'm sure Sean Strickland don't want to fight Izzy again, and Izzy doesn't want to fight Sean Strickland again either. Like they want to. The middleweight is more so. These folks want absolute title shots now. Anybody up top, Paulo Costa, he don't want to fight Izzy again. He want to go fight whoever got the goddamn belt too. He's supposed to fight Hamzat Chimaev. I wish they would get that going again. That would be just two behemoths. So I don't know. I don't think Izzy's isn't really the gatekeeper or the boogeyman of the
Not a
middleweight
gate. I definitely wouldn't say gatekeeper. Just more so if you have the belt, not before you have the belt. I would say after someone has the belt, he's someone that you want a title defense against.
Well, I guess it all depends on who on his next fight. Because if he loses, now you're talking you're talking 3 losses and 4 fights.
Yeah,
he ain't going to be able to just keep hopping into the picture. Look at Colby Covington, and we're not going to compare the way they fight, but record wise, if you're Colby Covington's 0-3 in title fights, if Izzy loses to DDP, if that's the fight we're going about now, we're going to the realm of hypotheticals here. If that is what's next, then you'll be only 1-3 with that 1 win coming against Alex Pereira last year, and who knows when this next fight will be booked. So you're talking about 1 win over the course of maybe 2.5 years or so. So it's going to, it will be determined. I think, God damn it, burping. I think that DDP versus Israel Adesanya is the fight to make. I don't think they should run it back with Strickland. It was a close fight, and he lost. So now it's time to earn that title chance back. One thing I don't like about fights, especially in the professional level, is just because it's a close fight and you were the champ, that you are automatically entitled to a rematch. You didn't even have a single title defense. You won the belt and then you lost it. Now, if you had a belt and you had it for about 4 or 5 title defenses, or if it's one of those situations where you're the only contender in the division, like the real true competition in the division, that's different. Otherwise, with Sean Strickland, I don't think he deserves a title shot immediately next. This needs to be DDP versus Izzy. And Sean Strickland can Sean Strickland, Hazmat Chimaev, and whoever else can pick up the pieces of that by fighting each other or something like that. But it was a very interesting. It was an entertaining main event. The card itself, like I said, it wasn't the most entertaining. The prelims were pretty good. I only caught a couple of them because I was watching football. And speaking of football, we're going to get right into it. So the whole time we were talking about UFC, I was debating on what game I wanted to start with first. Because I'm gonna let you kick off the segment, whoever it is. But I'm thinking we're gonna go Bills Chiefs. I'm gonna go Bills Chiefs here because that was a competitive game as well, which ended in another heartbreaking fashion. I like to imagine that if Sisyphus was alive, he would have been a Bills fan. So close yet so far. The Bills are just pushing that rock upwards. This year,
rock is Patrick Mahomes, man. That's crazy.
And this year seemed like probably the best year for them to get it done. No, not just this year. This game seemed like the best chance for them to get it done. Yet the ball just rolled right back over them, and they're back at the bottom of the mountain. What was your takeaway from that game? And why aren't the Bills able to get the job done?
I think it just comes down to, the difference in being able to elevate your play at the most crucial times. I think, no disrespect to Josh Allen, he played a great game, but I think that there was just times where when it was a close game all the way through, and when it was time to make a play, I know, Stephon Diggs had to drop. The kicker missed the kick. He got bumped on one of the touchdown throws that looked like it was going for a touchdown. I know certain circumstances happen, but I just think when it comes to making the plays that matter at the most important times, I just think they couldn't get it done. I'm not going to say just Josh Allen couldn't get it done. I'm going to say the Bills couldn't get it done when it came to making the plays that the most important plays. It wasn't they didn't have super crazy fireworks. Josh Allen, he did a good job not turning the ball over. But when you watch the game, they had an extremely conservative game plan for him. I don't know if that was in order to not let him make a bad decision or what. I wouldn't know. I'm not in that room. But the game plan was extremely conservative. He essentially only had about 5 passes. He had 39 attempts, but when you break it to the actual numbers, he essentially had about 5 passes past the more than 5 yards downfield. Like it was a very, very. I mean, he had 26 attempts for 186. 26 completions for 186 yards. That means less than 10 yards per completion. And so when
Right.
you saw it, they didn't call the game for him to go out and win it. They kind of were very conservative, and I think that part of that is what ended up coming back to bite them in the end. I liked how they established the run early, but then they kind of in the second half ish kind of went away from it. I wouldn't say they went away entirely, but there were a couple decisions in that second half. The fake punt, even though they got after that possession, they got saved by a touchback in the end zone.
Right.
I just like certain decisions weren't good, and then Stephon Diggs dropping that really big throw there near the end. Obviously, the kicker missing, Tyler Bass missing the kick. I just
Oh
think that
Lord. Oh
the
man. That was
timeliness
horrible.
wide right yet again for Bills fans. There were two worst words that they could have heard in that situation. But yeah, I just think when it comes to timeliness of making plays, the Bills just aren't. They can't make the plays when it matters the most.
I agree with that notion fully. And one of the so I went back and I watched the highlights. I went back and looked at the stats, and immediate reaction, like as the game was happening, was yes, the Bills established the run game early. Like they completely won in the trenches in that entire first half. Um, James Cook was getting going. And they didn't. Josh Allen was able to run was able to get some yards on his feet. He's such a big guy. He's basically their number 2 running back. Oftentimes the number 1 at certain times in the season. He was their number 1. He was able to just kind of chalk up those yards up front early. But as I continue to watch the game, as I watched the highlights, I sat up there and I really said, there wasn't a single thing that the Bills really beat the Chiefs in. They didn't beat them in the pass game. Like in any type of way, like they weren't able to get any explosive passing plays going. It's not like Josh Allen was just completely murdering them through the air. It was, and it was even on the ground. Like it was uh, even on the ground, there wasn't a definitive win for the Bills. Isaiah Pacheco was still chalking it up on the ground. He finished the game with 15 carries and 97 yards. The Bills' leading rusher was Josh Allen with 12 carries and 72 yards. So the just one man alone was able to kind of carry the load. And then Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a couple of big games. The Bills' defense, they were just completely injured. Their linebacker unit was completely fried. And it was one of those cases of now you're scoring, but you can't get a stop defensively. And when you can't get a stop defensively, now all it's going to be is just one mistake. That one mistake came with honestly, the biggest mistake came was with that fake punt. That was very questionable and boneheaded in my opinion. I just didn't get just why they went for that. Especially like it was a fake punt to Damar Hamlin to try to get a first down. Completely flopped. They got bailed out with that fumble that ended up in a touchback going the other way for the Bills. So it's they played very conservatively. I think that was the wrong thing to do as far as playing against the Chiefs team. I think what this was is, okay, we're going to try to grind this game out on the ground, especially since it's working. We're going to try to leave them with as little time with the ball in their hands as possible. And the problem with that is that Patrick Mahomes doesn't need the ball in his hand a lot to
And they
create
did
offense.
they executed that part well. Time of possession 30 minutes versus 22 minutes.
Yeah,
But
so
like you
he
said, when
doesn't
you
need the ball in his hands a lot.
yeah, so and then when you can't when your defense, especially being as depleted as it is, they had so many injuries in that in the on the defensive side of the ball. I think it was like 5 or 6 starters out. When you have so many injuries, I think is your best bet. Their best bet would have been a shootout. I think it would have been to let Josh Allen be himself more. Like I don't want to say best bet would have been a shootout because that Patrick Mahomes is he wins those a lot. But I do think that they played too conservative for the knowing that they can't get a lot of stops defensively. I think Stephon Diggs, he dropped that one pass, but he only had 3 receptions for 21 yards. They didn't get him
Oh yeah,
involved
he
as
he,
much
he
as
was a no show though. No, I don't think it wasn't him getting involved. I think that he didn't perform to the best of his ability when he did get the shots.
I agree with that. I agree, but there is times where he was missed. On that touchdown, there was a on the failed or when Josh Allen missed. I think it was Shakir in the end zone. Um, Stephon Diggs was wide open on the shallow coming across the field, and that would have helped late because Josh Allen was going for the touchdown early. He wanted to, I'm sorry, or not early. Josh Allen was going for the touchdown late because the touchdown would have put them up and put them in a really good position. But I think, if he comes down, makes a progression, makes his way down to that shallow route, then they get the shallow route, it's wide open. They pick up the first down, they burn some more time off the clock, and that just gives Patrick Mahomes less time to work with because being realistic. I mean, Patrick Mahomes with a minute 47 and 2 timeouts. We saw what he did against y'all last year with 13 seconds left. So if you give him a minute 47 with 2 timeouts, that's just gonna hurt you. That give him a chance to do that. That's he's gonna drive down the field on you. Like that's just I don't want to say it's a definite, but you give Patrick Mahomes almost 2 minutes and 2 timeouts, you're gonna get ugly. So it would just been even worse heartbreak. So I think they were too conservative. I just think they played not scared, but they were in fear of making a mistake that they weren't able to open things up as much as they could have.
I agree. So yeah, it's another, and of course that missed kick by Tyler Bass was just that was just what's a good comparison? That was just like someone taking a boulder and just dropping it on your chest. Like you're holding, like you're just
A
completely
shotgun blast to the
and
chest.
completely taking you out of reality, and you're just suspended in disbelief, not even knowing what it was. Like I was on TikTok and someone put a video of the Bills walking up a hill. I guess it was back to their car or whatever. They're walking up a hill and it was dark and it was snowy, and they put the Silent Hill music over it, and that was just the perfect, like it just encapsulated how they probably felt walking back home. So unfortunate for Josh Allen and the Bills. It's one of those times where he just, when a player has your number, it's kind of like how and this of course isn't a single player, but more so an organization. LeBron couldn't get over the Celtics hump. MJ couldn't get over the Pistons hump. These are things that are just, it happens. It happens. It happens. For a little bit, it was, well, let's not. You got other football talk, so we're not going to dive too deep into it. But yeah, it was a good game. Chiefs once again finding a way to get it done, and that's why after they beat Miami in the playoffs, I really just sat there and reconsidered. I'm like, okay, this is Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. It's a one single game, and no matter who they get matched up against, they have a legitimate chance. Now we were gonna talk about the Ravens soon, but now they're finna go against a real defensive unit, a defensive unit that's healthy, a defensive unit who has some of the best linebackers in football. So those passes across the middle to Travis Kelce that we're getting through, that ain't going to work at such a consistent clip. You got a pass rush, a real pass rush that is going to frustrate Patrick Mahomes, and
Kyle
an
Hamilton
offense that is
lurking
going
against
to
the
complete.
secondary.
Yeah, the secondary is nice, and a Ravens offense that is just so electric. We're gonna talk about their game against the Texans in one moment. Before then, though, we're gonna go to the second closest game of the weekend: San Francisco versus Green Bay. Touch and go for a while. Not even touch and go. Well, 49ers were down with about what a minute left, and that was when the final touchdown was scored, and they took the lead 24-21, and that was game after that. Especially after Jordan Love threw a crossbody on the run pass that just it turned to an interception, completely sealed the game. It was just a very interesting decision. My biggest takeaway is that we see Brock Purdy has a weakness. Before we were chopping it up and saying that this Brock Purdy guy has no type of like weakness that we've seen so far, especially this early into his NFL career. I apologize, Nova will be back shortly, but we saw that Brock Purdy didn't have any weaknesses this early into his career. This is his second time being in the playoffs. He's playing at home. And I brought up in the last episode, hey, it's going to be raining. So it'll be raining for the duration of the game. I said it could be a good thing for the 49ers, or it could be a bad thing for them. It could go either way. Just because it's at home and it's raining, them elements can also cause an effect to you. Let's not get that twisted. And I believe we saw that. Not even I believe. We know we saw that in this game against the Packers on Saturday. Brock Purdy and the 49ers offense, for the most part, looked very, very, very out of touch due to the elements throughout the first 3.5 quarters of the game. I will say that I wanted Christian McCaffrey to get the ball more. He only had like 11 carries by the third quarter or something like that. This was a game where he needed 20 to 25 carries. And he proved why he deserved those carries, because on the game-winning touchdown, it was a run for how many yards? It was a run for a 6-yard touchdown on 3rd and 1 to put the game 3 points in for the 49ers' favor. So if there was any real takeaway from this game, I believe that it was the rain can be an issue for the 49ers. We saw earlier when they played Cleveland a few months ago. It's the truth of the matter. Seeing the ball being wet, the ball being slippery. Oh my goodness, your connection is horrid.
Yeah, I
You
don't
look
know.
so grainy.
My internet just had a heart attack for some reason. I don't know what's going on, man. I'm gonna have to call up Xfinity, man. They're gonna have to get that together. I don't know what the hell
Might
happened.
need to get an Ethernet too. But yeah, the rain had a true effect on the game. It had an effect on Brock Purdy's ability to throw the ball.
I'm good now.
It was let me see. Yeah, there you go. You're much better. He had an effect. It had an effect on it. Kyle Shanahan believed that it did. He said he think that the rain affected it just a little bit. I believe that he's kind of, saving face for his team. But this is now a consistent pattern. We saw it, like I said, we saw it earlier this month earlier this season against Cleveland. The rain has an effect on exactly how the game was called and exactly how Brock Purdy is able to be effective. It wasn't enough to throw them completely off their rock. He had 252 yards and a touchdown. But like I said, I really wish that Christian McCaffrey was involved early. So that would be my takeaway. That would be my main takeaway from the game for the 49ers. And the Packers, they have a bright future ahead of them. I believe that they're starting to find they were starting to find their groove with their offense, getting Jordan Love finding his targets that he likes. Romeo Dobbs finished the game with 83 yards. He being able to he had two interceptions, but the it was firstly that last one was just so boneheaded. I can't remember what the first interception was.
It was tipped. It was a tip pass that he threw over the
Okay,
middle. It wasn't the best. It wasn't the best throw, but it was tipped.
Yeah. So he had a decent game for the level of competition he was up against and the circumstances of being on the road. The Packers defense had a great showing. They they made it tough. They made it tough for the Packers. Played the 49ers very hard. Didn't give them any easy looks. And like I said, it was a close game all the way up until that final touchdown to Chris McCaffrey. And even then, the Packers still had a real chance. Like the Packers didn't have no problem getting the ball down the field. It wasn't like they were getting just huge chunk plays that were taking the 49ers defense off guard. They were getting up and down the field with ease. The run game was going. Aaron Jones had another monster game, 18 carries for 108 yards. It's like ever since he returned from injury, he's had 100+ yards every game. I thought that
I'm gonna say that 50 of those yards came on one play. So
does that matter?
No, I'm just saying that drastically boosted his efficiency. So it wasn't like every single because he had 18 carries for 108 yards. That's 6 yards a carry. I just don't want it. It wasn't as effective as it looked. He had 6 yards a carry, but like I said, 50 of those yards came in one play. So that's 17.
I want to hear that.
50. Oh, I'm just putting in context. I'm putting in context
in that. You don't know why? Because you said that you said that the 49ers defense was gonna stop that run game. You said that. So I don't want to hear that.
And they did for a majority of it. They did stop the run game. It was 17 to 50. It was really more like 17 to 17 carries for like 60 yards.
You know what I see in that box score? And you know why I think this game was so close? Nope. I saw that game. Now I saw that y'all were down 21-17, and Aaron Jones was a huge part of that. So I don't want to hear that. But I'll let you go. You can go ahead and take it. I'll let you take it away. Get your reaction.
Yeah, man. The 49ers love to give me a heart attack. They love to make make the games as close as they can so that all their fans can leave with needing heart medicine. But yeah, it was the rain absolutely had an effect, like you said. The rain, and you called that going into it. The rain. A lot of people say Brock Purdy's hands are small, so it make it hard to throw a slippery ball. I don't know. That could be the case. I saw him wipe. There was even a play where he wiped his hands off mid-play. So the rain was absolutely a factor. I don't know why Kyle decided to throw the ball. He threw the ball 39 times, which is high, especially for Purdy. He's not known. He doesn't normally have that many attempts. So I don't know why he decided to throw the ball so much into their weakness. But the game was, watching it, it never felt out of hand. It never felt like the 49ers were at a point where they couldn't it never felt like they were totally out of the fight. I would say the defense, because a lot of people point out the Packers' mistakes. They point out the missed field goal. They point out the interception there at the end that they had a chance. I think it's more important to highlight the 49ers' mistakes that were uncharacteristic because those weren't common things that you're going to see, especially now that a lot of the rust has worn off for that team. I think, they haven't, a lot of the starters hadn't played in 3 weeks. I think rust was a little bit more of a factor than initially even thought. That combined with the rain just was not a very good combo. But I think when you look at the special teams, they had a blocked kick. They had a blocked field goal at the end of the second quarter. They gave up 60 yards on a kick return, like things of that sort. I think the Packers mistakes were more obvious, but the 49ers had some very uncharacteristic and very, I'll just say, dumb mistakes. Like I said, that 50-yard rush they gave up to Aaron Jones. They hadn't given up a 100-yard rusher in 51 straight games. I don't even know. I think it was 2020, 2021, but they hadn't allowed a 100-yard rusher in 51 straight games. So that's uncharacteristic. That's things, like I said, that's things that don't happen often for this team. And I think that those mistakes were ultimately, like a lot of people say Green Bay lost it for themselves. I think the 49ers were losing it for themselves with uncharacteristic things like that, like allowing
Yeah,
a first 100-yard rusher in 51 games,
yeah, they were
allowing
playing their way to a loss. I ain't even gonna
yeah,
lie. It was they were that just even from the play calls, they were playing their way to a loss.
I cannot for the life of me understand some Kyle Shanahan's play calling. I think that was one of his worst offensively called games I've ever witnessed as a 49er fan from him. I don't understand why, CMC 17 carries, 98 yards, 6 yards a carry. I don't know why we waited so long to get him involved. We even had a handoff to and it's been made more apparent that Debo is one of the more important cogs in that offense because Kyle Shanahan is so reliant on his versatility. It looks like we even had a play in the third quarter that drove me insane. He gave a handoff. He had Jawan Jennings, our receiver, in the backfield, and he gave him a handoff. It looked like one of the sweet plays that he normally gives Debo, but he put Jawan Jennings back there, and that just kind of that clicked in my head. It's like, wow, he really game plans for Debo, and it's so different when you lose him during the game, especially during the first quarter. But at the end of the day, when the 49ers needed, they had the missed kick from the Packers, and the 49ers were down 4, and they needed somebody to take over the game and go down and make something happen on their last drive. Brock Purdy put the ball in his hands, and he was 6 for 7 on the last drive. Accounted for 58 of the 69 yards, whether it was through the air or even the 9-yard pickup that he had that set up Christian McCaffrey's touchdown on the ground. And I think that's kind of the biggest takeaway, because that was one of the questions that a lot of people had was, can they play from behind? Kyle Shanahan notoriously 0-30 going into this game when trailing in the fourth quarter. Now it's 1-30, and that was one of the biggest questions was, can they get a real comeback? Can they come back when they are down in the fourth quarter? And Brock Purdy led a game-winning drive, led it down the field. Not just, he needed a touchdown, not just a field goal. He needed a touchdown, and they got exactly when they needed. Defense was opportunistic on defense. Got that interception exactly when they needed, and just great team football in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so now they have to, the Lions are going to come up to or go across America to Santa Clara to play. So we're looking at, number one, a better team. The Lions are a better team than the Packers. The Lions have been playing very well all playoffs. They've been playing well all season. And the question marks that they had leading into the question marks that were surrounding the Lions, the reason why I didn't pick them to be a Super Bowl contender going into the playoffs, they're starting to just dissolve slowly. They're still there. I'm just starting to dissolve slowly. I think that the 49ers should not look at the Lions as easy food. They should not look at them as a team that doesn't deserve, it's funny to say, but reputation also matters when you look ahead at a team. Looking at the Lions in a conference championship game, this is not normal. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not a normal happening. The 49ers in the conference championship game, oh man, these players are used to it. This ain't nothing new to them. So I don't want them to go in there thinking that it's going to be sweet against this Lions team, because some of the problems that show up against the Packers, if those same problems translate next Sunday with the Lions aren't just going to fumble that chance away. Not in my eyes. Look, you got the firstly, number one, you didn't get CMC going. I said it while you were gone. I said this should have been the game. Chris McCaffrey had 20 to 25 carries. We both said that before the game. Both said this should be Chris McCaffrey, a game where he is just a monster on the field. He's just every time he puts his foot on the ground, he's kicking up grass. That's how hard he's running. And he should be having a ball in his hands all day. That wasn't the case. They only had about 24 rushes total. I think Brock Purdy had like another six or so. Yeah. So they had 24 total when that should have been for one guy in Christian McCaffrey. The Lions are going to give the ball to them backs. The Lions are going to give the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. And the Lions have the capability of outrushing the 49ers. Let's be real. They have the ability to. The 49ers already lost the run game to the Packers. I can't remember the exact what it was, like 130 something.
111. So
that's a 20-yard difference. It might not look like a lot, but that's the Packers, right? That's a team that was deemed inferior. That was a team that with pretty much just Aaron Jones on it. Aaron Jones coming up with the majority of those yards. Now we're factoring a Lions team who gets the ball in their playmakers' hands, such as Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Even passing, you're going against a certified star receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? There was already a couple of iffy coverages, or the secondary by the Niners already looked a little in certain points in that game. Now you're going against Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now you got Sam Laporta to worry about as well. Now you got Josh Reynolds, right? So it's just now you got Jameson Williams. It's a real threat that the Lions are going to be able to go out there and go bar for the Niners. Look, you're going to have to stop us too. We have a good red zone defense. I know y'all do, but we got one too. So if the explosive plays are going to have to be there for the 49ers. They're not. They're not. The 49ers can't concede in the run game. They need to get CMC going. I know Deebo Samuel's status is up in the air. He went into halftime. He didn't return with his pads on, so he was out for the rest of the game. I know his status is up in the air. Y'all need to be preparing to play without him. Kyle Shanahan needs to be going ahead and get his play calls completely changed from I know the offense is Deebo, George Kittle, and CMC. Those are the three. That's how the game is going to be called most likely every game. Y'all need to go ahead and start prepping without him. Be ready, because we know what y'all can do with him. What can y'all do without him? So y'all need to be ready for that. And I don't think it's supposed to rain in Santa Clara. Now look at me, meteorologist Tony.
68 and sunny.
There we go. So and we were still a few days out. We're still about 5 days out. So barring some ridiculous shift in the weather pattern, I don't think that the weather should be an issue. But yeah, that was one of my biggest takeaways too, is that I know Brock Purdy's still only in his second year, but the rain has a true effect on his game. It does. But a win is a win. We all know that. 49ers are moving on, and we were already discussing them earlier. So let's go ahead and hop into the Lions Buccaneers. I'm gonna let you start this one off. Lions won 31-23. It was a good game. I enjoyed it. Buccaneers had different chances to win.
Score. I mean, 8 points is a one possession game, but it was a little bit closer than the score appears.
Yeah, it was.
I think with that game, like you said, very entertaining, very, very, like I said, closer game than the score showed. The Bucs, they came out. I would say I like that they relied on Baker. I like that that Baker had 41 passing attempts for 300, or 26 of 41 for 349, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The 2 interceptions, especially the second interception being the costly one that ended them the game. But I like that they relied on the Baker, relied on their passing game, because that's what they're used to. Rashad White is really good in the backfield. He had 9 carries of 55 yards, but that's not their game. Their game is, getting those receivers involved. Mike Evans, 8 catches, 147 yards. Their tight end, Cade Otton, 5 catches, 65 yards, and a touchdown. So I think they stuck to the right offensive game plan. I think they just weren't. I think their biggest problems was their defense. I said that going into it. I think that was their kryptonite, especially their pass defense, and it ended up being more so. It was a combination of pass and run defense. Jahmyr Gibbs 9 carries, 74 yards. That's 8 yards a carry. So their run defense was very, David Montgomery had 10 carries for 33 yards. So they stopped him, but he was mainly used on short yardage downs anyway. But when Jahmyr Gibbs came in, he was absolutely explosive. He was electric. He had a big 35-yard touchdown that I think gave them the 31 points. So Amon-Ra came up big, 8 catches, 77 yards, and a touchdown. So all in all, it played out very much how one could have predicted it would play out. Like I think it went pretty much like you would see it going on paper, because just when you look at the talent, the Lions have a very talented roster. The offensive line is great. They got Frank Wagner, they got Penei Sewell, Jared Goff.
Top tier O-line for 100%.
Yeah, especially Frank Wagner. He got hurt, and I don't know. He must have had elephant levels of Toradol in his system, because he got hurt and he came back in the game a couple of plays later. And then, like I said, it went kind of how you expected it to go on paper. I know it came down to Baker having a chance at the end and getting an interception, through an absolute duck across the middle of the field.
Yeah, but that was such a horrible pass. Horrible.
Yeah, but it was a good game. Like I said, the Lions, their passing, their secondary was one of the bigger questions, and it still, in my eyes, is a question mark going into this conference championship. Both secondaries were pretty weak, and I think it came down to being opportunistic and making the right plays at the right time.
My biggest thing was I'm liking the way Jared Goff is playing. He's not making any mistakes. Yeah. And a calculated Jared Goff, a comfortable Jared Goff, a Jared Goff who can trust that his O-line is going to buy him just enough time. We saw times where the Bucks. I talked about that the last episode. I wanted to see how the Bucks pass rush was going to do against Jared Goff in the O-line. Jared Goff was standing in the pocket the whole time, unfazed. There's times where the pressure got to him, but like you said, the Lions O-line is a premier unit. They protect the quarterback. They're opening up just massive holes for their running backs. It's one of those. The level of comfort that Jared Goff gets in the backfield, in the pocket, allows him to not be rushed into careless throws. He's going to find his receivers. And Amon-Ra scored that final touchdown of the game. Okay. It was 9 yards and 1st and goal. Darren Campbell does a great job calling the game, gets everyone involved. Everybody touches the ball. I love it. He doesn't force any particular player to get going. Jahmyr Gibbs is just 100% a superstar in the making. The way that he is a literal speed demon. Anytime he touches the ball, his nickname needs to be Flash, just like Dwayne Wade's was. His nickname needs to be Flash Gordon as well, because he takes off, and it's going to be drastically different. Like I like how every running back remaining in the playoffs are kind of different in the way that their styles. Isaiah Pacheco just completely beats up the ground. It seems like CMC, just how versatile he is in all levels of the running back position, through the air, up the middle, outside runs, to the left, of course, running behind that big ass goon. Then you got Jahmyr Gibbs, who just if he gets a running head start, the man is going to hit 25 miles an hour in an instant. It seems like it's just very interesting to see. And of course, in the Ravens, you have I don't. Oh, who else going to cuss? I'm trying not to curse today.
I mean, you could say Lamar,
Yeah,
but
I'm about to say you. I was going to say effing Lamar Jackson, who is just so shifty, and plus they have the power. They got power backs too. So now, if you need the short yardage, you don't need to put Lamar Jackson in danger.
Gus Edwards.
Yeah, you get the ball to Gus Edwards, big ass, and he's gonna run up the middle and get you at 4 or 5 yards, get you the first down that you need. It was an impressive showing by the Lions. Tampa Bay, they had a chance. It was a close game. Baker Mayfield, he performed well when it came down to the end. Like, I know it's not gonna be a consistent thing where everybody can get the job done. Where it's like, oh well, my quarterback has the ball with this amount of time left. I expect him to go down and do something. That is absolutely a thought you should have. So when Baker Mayfield doesn't, or when Jordan Love doesn't, when other players don't, it's something that you can genuinely critique, especially with the way that the drive in it. That was a horrible thrown ball. After he had a good game where he was making the throws count. He wasn't putting the ball into too much danger. He had 2 interceptions, but he was still kind of keeping up. Interceptions in the playoffs. If you're keeping up with the team and you make a mistake here and there, that's cool. But when it comes down to those crucial possessions, like it was for Jordan Love at the end, like it was for Baker Mayfield at the end, those are just the soul killers. But I am looking forward to Lions 49ers. This is the first NFC Championship game for the Lions since 1991, 1992. Back then, this is 32 years, mind you.
They're in the
Back then,
championship.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. It was against the formerly known Redskins, and they lost. They only scored like 10 points. Back then, 32 years ago, Ric Flair was DDP champion. Back then, 32 years ago, the Bulls only had 1 title with Michael Jordan. Back then, their oldest player, Tyson Alualu, was only 4 years old. He's 32 now. Or he's like 35 or 36 years old now. He's the oldest person on their team. 4 years old. Which means that everyone else was either born right at that year or are way younger. So it's quite insane that this is the case for the Lions. I'm excited to see how they're going to do up in Santa Clara. It's going to be a tough game, and I really think it's going to come down to defense. It's going to come down to defense. It's going to come down to, can the Lions pass defense show up and just make it hard? We like pause. Like we know nobody's expecting you to stop all the weapons that the 49ers have. I'm not gonna say it's an impossible task because we still got a defensive juggernaut in the AFC that might be up to that task. But you have to make it difficult. You can't make it easy. You can't allow Brandon Ayuk to get 60-yard touchdowns, especially if the weather is going to be clear. They're going to be playing with maximum level of comfort. Can't let George Kittle get these explosive plays over the middle. Can't let, if Deebo Samuels is there, you got to find a way to stop him. And then for the 49ers, can your run defense like step up? Not just show up. Can y'all step up? Can y'all be the main attributor to the Lions' frustrations? Because if Jahmyr Gibbs can't get going, and if David Montgomery can't get going, if you're making these second and short, third and short run attempts hard on the goal line, goal to go, can you make running the ball a struggle? Can you make it difficult? If the 49ers can do that, I believe that their chances to continue to go up. This game is going to be way closer than people thought that the Packers-Niners game was going to be up front. This game it's going to be very close.
I'm gonna build off that. I think it's gonna be most important thing is gonna be that front seven on both sides of the football. Pass rush, like you said, run defense for sure. But pass rush, they had no sacks against Jordan Love. And I know the Packers have a really good offensive line. The Lions have a better offensive line.
Right.
And we've seen what happens when you make Jared Goff, when you let him get comfortable. You see what happens when he's sitting in the pocket and he's not a mobile quarterback. When he's not gonna kill you with his legs. So when he gets time to just sit in that pocket and just dissect you, he's capable of that. He is capable just making the correct throw when he has a clean pocket. So that pass rush is gonna be important. It's gonna they had no sacks against the Packers. They're gonna have to get home. They're gonna have to get home against Jared Goff. And then, like you said, obviously stopping the run because that is a ferocious run attack. And then same thing for the Lions. Or more so, I say the 49ers offensive line, because they were kind of getting decimated by the Packers pass rush. Even on a lot of the good plays, that third down strike from Brock Purdy to Juwan Jennings, he got killed. Like he just got the ball out.
Hit hard,
yeah. So I think the 49ers offensive line and defensive line are gonna be important. The front seven on both sides are gonna be just astronomically important. They're always important, but I think this game in particular against this opponent, I think is gonna be literally on them, because we know the playmaker, they're gonna do their thing. Like we know even if Kittle's not going, if you got Debo and Ayuk, one of them's gonna get going, or if not both. You got CMC, of course he's gonna get going, but that all depends on that front seven offensively, and then like I said, defensively. If you stop the run, you earn the chance to pass rush, and then when you pass rush, you have to get home. You have to make it uncomfortable for Jared Goff, make him leave his spot. We don't see him throwing the run often because he's not even, most times you get hogged down anyway, but it's got to make it uncomfortable, both sides.
I'm looking at these stats. I got two stats I want to show you. Jared Goff splits from a clean pocket this year. He has 75.9% completion rating, which is fourth best in the league, 8.3 yards per attempt, which is ninth best in the league, and 25 touchdowns, which is fourth. Under pressure, 50.7 completion, which is 14th, 6.3 yards per average or per attempt, which is 13th, and 6 touchdowns, which is 14th. So if we're literally looking at top level versus right in the middle of the field, which is very fitting for Jared Goff's career. Which right now in the playoffs, he's playing like a top 7, like you play like a very great quarterback up there with the elite level. But you see, you put some pressure on him, like you said, that goes right back down to, Jared Goff and some of these same struggles that we've seen. Also, another stat I read, I had in my notes. And this is, I've been trying to get more into like more analytics in football. You're familiar with DVOA, right?
Yeah.
And so defense adjusted value over average, which pretty much calculates the team's success based on the down and distance of each play. So looking at this, it adjusts for strength of schedule as well. San Francisco's run defense is ranked at 15th.
Yeah. That's even better than I thought, because I think in overall numbers, DVOA is a very an advanced analytical. But if you look at the basic rushing defense yardage wise, I think we're in the 20s. I know we're in the 20s.
So now we're looking at, and like I said, I'm gonna keep hammering this point forward, especially as we dive into the breakdowns of each championship game on Thursday. You got Thunder and Lightning. You got Thunder with that 220+ pound running back David Montgomery. You got Lightning with Flash Jahmyr Gibbs. That is going to be a very crucial point for me to be watching, especially when you got a Lions offensive line with Penei Sewell, Frank Ragnow, the left tackle Taylor Decker, Graham Gaslow. This is one of the premier rushing run blocking teams in the league. I'm not sure why I had a brain fart there. So it's going to be very interesting to see. They also are good at keeping the pocket clean for 49ers. Like, look, or for the Lions. Hey, man, 49ers went out there and got Chase Young. I'm expecting some pressures on Jared Goff. Y'all over here trying to stack up this damn Avengers team. I'm going to need to see some. Like, that's plain and simple. Nick Bosa, I know you're not playing against a black quarterback this time. So what you going to do? Let me see you haul down Jared Goff like you was doing Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes and them. So let me go ahead and see that. I know he's ready for Lamar Jackson. That's who he's waiting for. He's looking forward to Lamar Jackson. He got that shit circled on his calendar, but he needs to go ahead and look at Jared Goff because I just showed the statistics. If Jared Goff has a clean pocket, his level of play gets boosted tremendously.
And no, because Sewell's on the right side, so they're gonna switch Bosa over to go against the left side, so he can go against the worst tackle. But
and the worst tackle is still a good tackle too, Taylor Decker. It's gonna be tough.
Yeah, so it's gonna be. It's like I said, that offensive line is outstanding. It's phenomenal. It's gonna be a war down there in the trenches. It's gonna be a war in the trenches.
Whoever wins is gonna have such a tremendous chance of winning.
Yeah, and the Lions pass rush or defensive line is pretty solid too. So
what? Man, Aiden Hutchinson, that goddamn Wolverine boy.
Yeah, so like it's
TJ Hockenson. Oh no.
Yeah, the TJ Hockenson tight end.
No, what's not TJ Hockenson? What's the man's name? There's another pass rusher for the Lions, man. Oh my goodness, what's his name? Keep talking. I'm gonna remember.
All right, they got it's like I said, it's gonna be a very trenches oriented game. It is gonna come down to who can win in the trenches offensively and defensively, and don't be surprised if you see one game if one team is dominating on one side of the trenches. Don't be surprised if they come out on the victory.
I believe that 100%.
I think it's going to be a big game for Brock Purdy, or a big opportunity for him to step up, because I think they're going to do what a lot of teams want to do, is neutralize CMC and make Brock Purdy beat you. Now we've seen that he can go out and beat you, and now it's sunny, no more rain, no more slippery ball. Possibly have Debo back, because Debo went out in the first play. Like, he literally played one play. And because I take him off a kick return, Kyle. Take his ass off a kick return. I love Debo, and he's an electric kick returner. Get his ass off a kick return, bro. And so, he played one snap with him, or basically, essentially one drive with him, and came out after that. Like I said, second half didn't even put the pads on. So I think it's just gonna come down to a trench battle, and then Purdy's going to get an opportunity to sling the rock, especially against a particularly porous secondary. So it's going to be exciting.
It will be. With that, we're going to move on to this final game before we wrap up this episode. It's not going to be the longest because we got stuff to do today. Texans versus Ravens. It was the most thorough beatdown that we've had all weekend. 34-10, Ravens won. They will be hosting their conference championship game for the first time in 53 years. Lamar Jackson, he had the performance that we expected him to have, both through the air and on the ground. It was, you look at the numbers and you see 152 passing yards and 100 rushing yards, and it's like, I expect him to have 250, 350 passing yards in the game against the Texans. Pause. Like, that's not what the stuff is. That's not what what defines a great quarterback. A great quarterback is going to lead their team. Great quarterback is going to make the plays that need to be made. And when it was time to do so, Lamar Jackson showed up and provided. Look at it was 10-10 at halftime, and there was a picture of Lamar Jackson looking back out on the field.
Yeah, walking down the stairs.
And he looked at the field like, I know damn well these folks really don't think they got a chance. And they came out, they held them to 0 points. That Ravens defense is so goddamn tough to play against. 38 rushing yards is what they held the Texans to. 38 compared to 229. Thoroughly outclassed them on both sides of the ball, running it in the trenches, pass rush. CJ Stroud, 0 touchdowns, only 175 yards. Frustrated him through the air. The Ravens team really showed up and did exactly what we said they should do. Y'all need to go out there and show the Chiefs and the Bills, no matter which one of y'all win, y'all not finna come over. Y'all not finna beat us. It ain't finna be sweet.
Yeah, Lamar is scary. But that defense is something else, man. They didn't give up an offensive touchdown. They gave up a punt return touchdown. That's how
Yeah,
they got the
and that's
10.
what
They
tied it.
really,
It was like what,
yeah,
52-yard return, right?
yeah, they really only gave up 3 when you're looking at it. It more so came on the offense's explosion in the second half. But yeah, it was that Ravens defense is a scary task to overcome, even even for someone like Mahomes.
Oh yeah,
I know how great Mahomes is, and the weapons he doesn't have the weapons that he had in the previous years. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. You're gonna have Kyle Hamilton and Roquan guarding Travis Kelce, Rasheed Rice.
Patrick Queen over the middle too.
Exactly. Rasheed Rice. I don't know if Marlon Humphrey's gonna come back for this game or not, but either way, that Ravens defense is honestly for me it's scarier than that offense.
Yeah,
And Lamar is super electric. Lamar honestly had the best, I would say, total performance from a quarterback in the playoffs so far.
easy.
And
That man,
so
it just gets it's so scary once he gets going
yeah,
on the ground because now it's like, dude, 100 yards on 11 rushes, and he made it look easy. He wasn't taking no big hits like we see Josh Allen just completely getting hammered sometimes to get first downs.
just
Lamar Jackson is just
sliding
dancing.
and diving at the end of runs. Like it wouldn't
Right.
it's stuff he wasn't getting it out the mud. He wasn't breaking tackles and having to do stuff like that. No, it was just I'm gonna take what the defense gives me. The defense is gonna play. You guys want to sit and cover 4, you want to sit off. I'm gonna take this 10-yard rush and we're gonna get to the next down. And so yeah, I think it's even they got Ronald Darby out there on defense, and he's balling at cornerback. Like it's just it's a scary defense. Then scary offense. Mark Andrews didn't come back last year, but last week, but I think he's designated to come back this week. So yeah, Texans, shout out CJ Stroud, shout out D'Amico Ryans. They have a bright future.
Yeah,
Like the Packers, they have a very bright future. Rookie quarterback, rookie head coach going to the divisional. They're not supposed to be here. Most people didn't even see them making the playoffs, much less winning a playoff game this season. So they didn't have Tank Dell. Tank Dell out for the year early. So they've got nowhere to go but up, and it's a lot, Will Anderson on that defense. They just got a lot to look forward to on that team. But yeah, the Ravens are scary.
Yeah, it is. And like, man, you got Michael Pierce to worry about too up at the nose tackle position. He clogs up the run game. You got even old vets like Kyle Van Noy still having an impact on the game.
Justin
Like
Madubuike led all these
right.
tackles backs. Like
Jadeveon Clowney. Like we're Marcus Williams at free safety. Like this defense is crazy as hell, bro. Like
this is a Madden franchise mode where you turn
yes.
like trade denies off. Like this is
bro. No free salary cap trade that you can take nothing. You can accept whatever trade. And like Roquan Smith over here turning into primary Lewis against the Texans. Like this defense is I don't like to compare, but this defense is an elite unit. Like you said, I didn't even put that into context. They only allowed 3 points of offense. They completely shut them out in the second half, drained the clock, didn't give them any time to get going, and their offense was already slogged up in the first half. Anyways, that punt return kept the Texans afloat.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like that was the driftwood in the ocean while you're drowning, and you're just able to hold on to it and you just tread water. That's what that was. And in the second half, that driftwood sank, and you completely drowned. And the Texans, that's what happened with the Texans. The offense couldn't get going, and then the Texans defense, they had one good possession, one really good possession where the Ravens went 3 and out after that punt return. And
that was that was what I said was one of the I'm sorry, no, it was right after. Yeah, that was one of the more important drives. So the Texans defense, they stepped up in certain spots where they really needed to step up because the Ravens got the ball to start the second half. So I wanted them to get a stop because you didn't want them to score and then get the ball again and score again. And all of a sudden you're in a 14-point deficit. Obviously, in the end, it didn't really matter. But that was a really good. That was what I said. It was a very important drive for that.
Yeah, in the half, tied up. Man. I'll tell them about. I don't know what the halftime speech was, but it was probably like, "Hey, man, We getting our ass kicked out there. But we it's tied and it's the playoffs. We need to go out there and play. So it was a thorough beatdown. Man, the Ravens versus not the Patriots, the Chiefs.
Man,
I don't think the
Lamar
Chiefs have a
balling so
chance,
bad,
bro.
man. They had MLK coming back out to get him.
Right,
Man.
yeah,
I've been
that
watching,
picture was
man.
so funny, bro. I'm not gonna say the Chiefs don't have a chance. Let me rephrase that. I just think that, man, it's gonna be a goddamn miserable game for them.
For those that don't know, this is the picture of Lamar we're referring to.
Oh yeah. After that man just completely shat on everything the Texans had
if
going.
you see this face, you're in trouble. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Got the shiesty mask going. He got the scowl on his face. Yeah, he turned up in the second half. So great performance by Lamar Jackson. Exactly what I wanted him. The type of game I wanted him to have. He's going to be winning his second MVP, going on to their conference championship game. Job's not done though. Like Kobe would say, job's not finished. You still got one more. You still got one more to make it to the big game. Y'all been playing well. Y'all are healthy, and with the exception of Mark Andrews and Buddy Kyle, not Marlon Humphrey, not Kyle Humphrey, Marlon Humphrey. The exception of those two, y'all are healthy, and both of those players may be coming back in time for the Chiefs game. So this is a tremendous position for the Ravens to be in. Y'all are going to be up in y'all's home territory with that raucous crowd in Baltimore. MLK is going to be in the stands watching, bro.
They were loud. They had another thing. The Texans had 4 false starts.
Yeah. No, it was 6.
Or it was 6.
It was
yeah,
6.
They had 6 false starts in the first half because that crowd was just so loud. They couldn't get the snap count down. They had to go to a silent count. And so that's one of the perks of playing at home. You get that crowd behind you, and that crowd up there in Baltimore, they are loud.
Crazy. The Baltimore and Detroit were the two just loudest crowds all weekend. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately for the line, they're on the road.
They're on the road. Yeah, they're on the road.
Santa Clara can get loud too.
Yeah, I about to say, I know that can get loud out there, and especially if they start getting going early. Like it's just it's both of these games are going to be so interesting matchups wise. We're going to break it down even further on Thursday, but we got some very entertaining championship games coming up, like Lions versus this is just an odd timeline we're in. The Lions are in the conference championship game. Patrick Mahomes is on the road again. Dricus Du Plessis just beat Sean Strickland for the UFC middleweight title. This was a belt held by Silva. This was a belt held by GSP. This was a belt held by Alex Pereira. This is a weird timeline we're in. Like it's but I'm loving it. Like I'm not even gonna hate.
NBA Timberwolves and Thunder at the top of the conference.
Right. Like what is man, we had just last night Embiid dropping 70, breaking Wilt's scoring record for the franchise. We got I almost said Cat Williams. Karl Anthony Towns dropping 63 but losing to the Charlotte Hornets. Like we were just seeing this is 2024 is off to a banger in the sports world. And I ain't gonna lie. And I'm loving it. And we're gonna be here to cover it for the entirety of the year. We're gonna be wrapping up this episode, short episode, but everything we said was as accurate and informative and as analytical as you can get. Perhaps y'all would like the shorter episodes more. I'm not sure. The last episode was like 2.5 hours. This is now about 1 hour and about 25 minutes. So who knows? Let us know y'all's thoughts on this episode. Let us know y'all's picks for upcoming weekend of championship football in the NFC and AFC. We will be back again on Thursday. We'll be breaking down the individual matchups that we'll be looking forward to, our predictions of the championship games. We'll be getting into some NBA basketball and whatever else the sports world has to offer. Like I said, 2024 has been crazy thus far, and we're going to be here to cover all of it. So with that, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Let us know anything that y'all like us to cover. Give us some critique. Rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And with that, this has been episode 36 of the Hear Me Roar podcast, hosted by Tony Hope and Noble Lewis. And we will catch y'all in the next episode.